Hi, my name is Dave. I'm your host. You're listening to The Last Podcast, where the first shall be last and the last shall be first. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I'm happy you found me. And if you're returning, welcome back. I really appreciate you listening, and I hope you continue to find tips, ideas, and value from listening to this podcast. Hey, I have a good question for you. Have you ever felt the sting of rejection? I'm quite sure you have. As most of us probably have gone through something, we've probably experienced that sting of rejection, whether you've been turned down for an opportunity, received unsolicited feedback, or been misunderstood, perhaps. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes criticism or rejection, however you want to label it, can sometimes sting, right? So, understanding our emotional impact or the emotional impact that sting might have, I want to begin right where we are. Rejection and criticism, right? They're both painful, and because I think they kind of like tap into some of our most basic human needs to be seen, accepted, or even valued, right? When someone criticizes your work, your choices, or even your personality, it can feel like a personal attack. Like they're saying you're not enough, and bang, rejected, right? It often feels like someone saying you're not wanted, especially not here. That hurts, don't it? I mean, I've been rejected many times, so I know the sting of rejection, but I don't take that personally. So the first thing I want you to do is this: honor the emotion, feel it, name it if you have to, journal it. Talk it out. Breathe through it. You're not weak for being affected. You're only human. But let's make sure you don't get stuck in that place. It's all right to feel that sting. It's all right to feel that rejection, that pain of rejection, but it's not all right to stay there. Yeah, let that go. So I want to talk about the power of pausing. In the face of criticism, especially when it's unexpected or even harsh, our natural instinct is to often, boom, react. We defend, we shut down, we lash out, or we internalize it. But here's where the power actually lies. It lies in the pause, taking a moment, taking a breather, taking a breath, and assess. When you pause, you create a space between what was said and what you choose to believe, between what happened and what it means to you. I want you to get that. When you pause, you create a space between what was said and what you choose to believe, between what happened and what it means to you. In that space, you get to ask powerful questions. Is this feedback actually about me? Is it constructive? Or is it coming out from their own unresolved issues or stuff, whatever it is? What part of this, if any, could help me grow? So I want you to think about that, right? Because criticism can be like a mirror, but not all mirrors reflect the truth. Some distort. Your job is to discern, not to absorb. You are supposed to gain something from this. Rejection is like redirection, if you want to say that. Let's talk about the rejection. A job you didn't get, right? Or a person walked away from you, or left you stranded, or didn't pick you up, never even called you back, or you went to a job or had a presentation that flopped and someone told you about it. That presentation was no good. A dream that didn't materialize the way you hoped, while painful, often serves as a cosmic course correction, if you will. It's like life is saying, not this time, not this, but something better, something truer, something more aligned with your values, your missions, your personality, and who you truly are. When you're in it, that might not seem like it, right? When you being hit with that rejection, you're like not thinking of all that. But that's why the pause is so important. But how many times have you looked back and thought, thank goodness that didn't work out? Or thank goodness that person never called me back. Look what happened to them. Look where they at. Or thank goodness that I didn't get that job. They laid off all those workers. Here's the truth. Rejection doesn't define your worth. It reveals your path. Sometimes it says not now. Sometimes not this way. And sometimes not with them. But never not you. I want you to understand that. Okay? So I often see a lot of things, and I'm quite sure you do. Constructive feedback is specific, focused on a behavior, not identity. So that's one thing. If you're getting constructive feedback, it's specific. It's focused on something that you're probably doing, and it's not about your identity, or it's probably and how it's being delivered also has an impact as well, right? If it's doing it in a nice way, it's with intent to help you grow, to help you become better. Destructive criticism, well, that's kind of probably vague, personal, and more about control or projection or ego than support. That person might be going through something, right? So your job is to not take any of this personally. It's probably best that you learn how to filter. Take that moment where you can pause. Take that moment that you are going to reassess what's happening, what's going on. Is this about them or is it about me? Who's giving the feedback? Number one, do they know you? Do they value you? Do they trust you? Do they have your best interest at mind? Are they speaking from wisdom or wounding? So these are things that you want to probably take a look at. You don't need to internalize everyone's opinion. Not everyone's voice is going to belong in your inner circle, so to speak. Feedback is your data. All right. So take it with a grain of salt. Take it with how can I use this to get better? If it's a valid feedback and not criticism. All right. So I want to talk a moment about that feedback, right? Because that's constructive. But what happens when somebody is, let's say, being critical of you? Or they're shooting criticism in your way? It means that someone took the time to see you or challenge you or invite you up to the next level, or did it? Because if they're seeing you and they're challenging you, you know, it can seem like tough love. It can seem like criticism. But what if they're actually challenging you to become better? That's a gift. Even when it's uncomfortable, because sometimes criticism hurts, it's uncomfortable, but sometimes it's tough love. I believe that a lot of athletes, they crave feedback, because I think back, and this is ancient time ago, when I was playing ball, and I realized that some people were, at first I didn't understand it, but in hindsight, I look back, some people were being critical of how I was playing or what I could have did better. And, I took it personally, but eventually I used what they were saying to get to the next level in my game. It made me better. But here's the key. You lead with response, or you lead with acceptance. What I mean by that is, do you respond right away when somebody tells you something that's critical, or they're criticizing you, whether it's tough love or whether it's in a loving way or in a hostile way? What do? Do you respond real quickly? Do you take it personally, or you take a moment and say, is there something here? Is there something what they're saying? Is there any validity to it? Right? So you have to ask yourself these questions. And I know, and be honest with you, I know sometimes you can't. But if you work at it, it gets easier and easier, and then you will be able to. Because it's all about control. It's all about where you are. And whether it's emotionally, or you just trying to say to yourself, I don't want to just respond. I want to take a look at the situation. Because sometimes when we respond real quickly, in hindsight, we say, I wish I wouldn't have did that. So it's best to see, well, what can I learn? What could I learn here? What could I learn about this? Is there any validity to it? What pattern is this revealing? Is this the first person who's saying this or noticing this about me? So that's another thing. How many other people have probably brought this to your attention? How can I use this to grow is the question. You want to ask that question. So I want to talk a moment and give you something that, because I used to suffer with this, trying to criticize somebody, and in hindsight, I'm looking at it, well, wow. And I'm being honest with you, that was just my ego. And I think a lot of people do that, or you might have to look at yourself and say, is this my ego, or an inner critic in myself, or am I being critical of myself? Sometimes rejection and criticism hurts, not because of what was said, because they confirm what you really believed in your own mind, right? Sometimes that hurts even more. I'm not good enough. Somebody comes and tell you, hey, look, you're not going to ever get this. You're not good enough. And if you're believing that, they're solidifying what you believe. But now it really stings because somebody else is saying it. I always mess up. You say that to yourself. See, they noticed. I'm not really talented. Hey, look, I know a lot of people feel that way. I've heard it. I've even said it. And you know something? After doing the work, you realize this isn't true. There's no validity in this. Unless you're starting something brand new, of course you're not good enough yet. Of course you're not talented yet at that. You have to give yourself time. So I think when that happens, when people are telling you you're not good enough and it's solidifying what you already believe about yourself, that's a way of you saying, oh, you know what? I'm gonna protect my ego, mixed with your old programming of self-limiting beliefs. Your inner critic is trying to keep you safe, because basically that's what our mind is always trying to do. It doesn't want us to stretch out into the unknown because it's afraid from risk, from embarrassment, from failure. But safety doesn't create greatness. So that's why so many people want to be safe. Growth requires vulnerability. It requires standing in the arena knowing that you might be judged and choose to show up anyway. So I realized something. Out of all the things that we deal with in life, no matter how hard we try, criticism and rejection, if you don't get that under acknowledgement of saying, hey, look, I got to find out where this is coming from and get rid of any old programming, it can sting like you don't know what. After a tough hit, it's normal to feel shaken, but confidence isn't built by avoiding rejection. Remember that. It's built by learning how to bounce back. That's where the confidence grows. That if you just wither away, you're never going to grow that confidence. And then sometimes you have to, when you're trying, you see yourself recoiling, try to reconnect with some of your wins, some of your past wins if you don't have any recent ones, and find out what made you a winner in that instance. Make a proof list if you have to. And that proof list is like moments when you succeeded in life. It doesn't matter when. Just write down the list of all the things that you succeeded in. And then if you're suffering from low confidence, try to do things that will make you feel a little more confident. And that means you got to start small, even outside the area where you were rejected in. Talk to someone who reminds you of your strengths, because you got to get around people that's going to inspire and uplift you in that arena. You can't stay with people who are belittling you and always reminding you of all your shortcomings. That'll never work, especially not when you're trying to rise, when you're trying to dig yourself out of whatever it is that you don't like being in. What if we redefined success, not as never being rejected or criticized, but what if, how quickly can I bounce back from this mistake, from this rejection, from losing this girl or losing this guy, or whatever your situation is? You have to ask yourself, how quickly can I bounce back from this? How gracefully can you take feedback, that criticism? Because guess what? If you can take it with grace, it rolls off and it doesn't sting. How deeply you stay rooted in your own truth, despite outside opinions, it'll never sting. Because that sting is coming from what you probably already believe or in the back of your head. Think about how many times that somebody says something to you and you just blurt it right out in an instant and you are being defensive. I mean, think about it. If you're doing anything meaningful, if you're trying, if you're creating, if you're leading, if you're loving, expressing, you're going to be rejected one way or another, because not everybody is going to agree with you. Not everybody is going to like you. Not everybody is going to think you're going in the right direction. But you have to be true to you, to your own mission, to your own values. Not because it's something that you may believe or may not believe, but because it's your values. It's where you ultimately, when all the dust settles, it's ultimately saying to yourself, that conversation you have, sometimes you might have to change the dialogue, because if what they're saying, you have to ask yourself, is there any truth in this, right? If there is no truth in it, because you have to validate what it is. But if you solely heartedly believe what they're saying to be true, there's no reason to be defensive because you're believing it. So maybe it's time to change that inner dialogue and say, let me reframe all this. Let me take a moment and breathe. And then you say to yourself, what just happened? Why do I feel this sting? Why am I putting so much value on what they said to me? Is there any validity? Is there any truth to it? What am I making this mean to me? Why? So, and then you just don't go out and believe all those and ask all those questions. You want to say to, what else could this mean? What can I learn from it? So, what can you learn from it? What is the one step that you can take right now to make the situation better? You know what? The reason why I'm talking about this, because I know criticism often creates tension. Where do you feel it? Your chest, shoulders, gut, the way you breathe. You feel it in that space that you're in when you feel that tension, right? So maybe you want to have an empowering conversation by talking it out with someone in a safely manner. Let them remind you of your wholeness, of who you are. Sometimes it actually takes someone else saying, that doesn't sound true about you, to pull you back into the center of your own belief. So you have to think about that. And then what might help you is when you write that whole situation out and you dissect it on paper. So I want to leave you with this. You're not alone. Everybody or every book about love or everybody who's loved, they've been rejected. And matter of fact, think of a book publisher. A lot of books have been rejected. Think of songs. People who have written songs, critiqued them, and rejected so many of them. Every icon you admire has been doubted, mocked, and criticized without a doubt. Rejection is not a stop sign. You need to remember that. It's a part of the terrain. Criticism is not the verdict. It's feedback. It's feedback so you can choose to do something with it. Now, what you choose to do with it, that's entirely up to you. And I want to encourage you to take a moment and pause and do the right thing with it. Write it out, dissect it, and start asking yourself those questions. You're not broken because someone didn't see your value. You're not weak for feeling the sting. You're not lost because that door closed. You're evolving. So feel the feelings, learn the lesson, and then rise, because your journey isn't over. It's just interesting. My name is Dave. You're listening to the last podcast. I hope this was good food for thought. Hey, I always enjoy this podcast. And I'm going to tell you, at the end of the day, when you come home and you say to yourself, I'm so exhausted, but the one thing, no matter how tired I am, I realize I always want to come to do this podcast. Because it's not about being consistent for the podcast, to be honest with you. It's about being consistent for myself. It's about being consistent for people who might need to hear this in this moment, in this time. I know if only one person gathers something from this and do something with it in a positive way, it was well worth it. And I might not ever know. But what I've learned in the past is sometimes people say, hey, look, I'm real happy you talked on that, about that topic, about this. It really touched me. It was like you was just talking to me. That makes all this worth it, because it's about you hearing something in one of these conversations and say, hey, you know what? I never thought about it like that. Let me try this. Let me try that. And sometimes we hear things over and over and over from so many different sources. And then the one time we hear from somebody you've never heard of, bang, it automatically clicks. And now you could do something with it, right? I hope this podcast can do that for you. My name is Dave. You're listening to The Last Podcast. Do me a favor and subscribe. Do me a favor. Stop what you're doing right now. Go ahead and subscribe and like this podcast. Tell your family, your friends, associates about this podcast. I wish you the very best. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.